Hello, BookTube. I've got a poem for you today on a bright, sunny winter morning, a Monday morning with an optical illusion in the frame. Can you spot it? Most people miss number 6. There is, in fact, a bean in the frame. She is just thoroughly deflated and watching her kingdom on her pillow seat. And we are going today to one of the great poetry anthologies of all time, the Oxford Book of English Verse. No offense to Arthur Quiller Couch, but I am going to use the Helen Gardner version, which I had in an undust jacketed hardcover forever and ever. And the whole time I told myself, sooner or later, a copy with a dust jacket will show up for $3 at the Brattle Bookshop, and then you can swap them out. And sooner or later, that did happen. So we have the new Oxford Book of English Verse, and we are going to A.E. Housman. God help us all. And this is the poem we will read and then palaver about today. On Wenlock Edge, the woods in trouble. His forest fleece the Wrekin heaves. The gale, it plies the saplings double, and thick on Severn snow the leaves. 'Twould blow like this through Holt and Hanger when Uricon the city stood. 'Tis the old wind in the old anger, but then it threshed another wood. Then, 'twas before my time, the Roman at yonder heaving hill would stare. The blood that warms an English yeoman, the thoughts that hurt him, they were there. There, like the wind through the woods in riot, through him the gale of life blew high. The tree of man was never quiet. Then 'twas the Roman, now 'tis I. The gale, it plies the saplings double. It blows so hard 'twill soon be gone. Today the Roman and his trouble are ashes under Uricon. And it's lovely in its own way. Well, there were a couple of things, right? The wind through the woods in riot is very nice. The line that the thick on Severn snow the leaves. I love snow there being used in that odd way as a verb, meaning that the wind is blowing so hard through the trees that it is covering, it is snowing fallen leaves onto the Severn. That's kind of neat. There's nice imagery all throughout here. There are some creaky bits. It's amazing to me that in all of human history, with the millions of poets who have tried it, the only single individual who ever got end rhymes completely effortlessly right was Alexander Pope, and nobody else. How is that possible? How is it possible there wasn't one other person? But we have problems here, like for instance, Hanger and Anger don't quite work, and also Roman and Yeoman work, but in the third stanza, Roman and Yeoman work, but they don't work. They rhyme, and they are end rhymes, but they don't work with the way you're aspirating the poem. They don't work with the way you're actually saying it. Then 'twas before my time. The Roman at yonder heaving hill would stare. The blood that warms an English yeoman, the thoughts that hurt him, they were there. The odd jolting of that, there's the 'twas before my time in the first line of that stanza, stops your forward reading, and the odd doubling of the subject in the last line also stops your reading. Then 'twas the Roman, now 'tis I, and that ruins the end rhyme. Your reading voice does not naturally find it. I don't believe that was intentional. I think that was probably just Housman poring over this poem until he thought it all looked good. and you know how we mention sometimes our poetry palaverings that one of the things I love best about poetry is that it often captures an evanescent moment. It captures something that is fleeting, almost can be said not to exist at all, and yet it's real and we've all felt it. And poets go into those moments and capture them perfectly. This poem isn't that. This is a poem that not only writes about something that other poets have written about, but writes about something that all other poets have written about, and writes about it in a very obvious way. Uricon here, the city that is called Uricon here, the Roman city that is called Uricon here, was the Roman city of Viriconium. That its ruins are currently under excavation in Shropshire. It did exist. It was real. Romans did live there. They had main streets and markets and a garrison and everything that you could think of. A public house, public latrines, floozies of all types for all tastes. It was a normal, thriving Roman town. And the point that Housman wants to make here is that it's completely gone, and that it too was racked by these horrible storms and by the vexations of the human tree. That the human beings also were racked with storms and feelings. What was that called? The blood that warms an English yeoman, the thoughts that hurt him, they were there. And Housman is trying to, he's not trying, he's succeeding. He is belaboring in a poem the fact that these tumultuous human passions existed 2,000 years ago, and now the poet is standing in the same place having human passions, but it's a different wood, a different wind, and really, thus 'twas ever so. The point I'm trying to make is that it's a very shop-worn poetic thing to do. We used to be. It isn't anymore. Poems don't do anything anymore. But once upon a time, when poems did things, you could either make them do something interesting and new, or you could write a poem like this, which I imagine took A.E. Housman about 6 minutes to do. Maybe 6 minutes to sketch it out, and then an extra day to work out the end rhymes, which do require a bit of work. If you're doing end rhymes, I don't know how many of you have ever experimented with it. I have quite a bit. And when you're doing end rhymes, you know what you want to say, and then you just have to warp, twist the language all around until you get the end rhymes right. But they have to be right in both ways. They have to be an actual rhyme. So not the usual thing like have and love. Those things look the same, but they don't sound the same. And your reading breath has to find the rhyme. It doesn't matter if it's technically where it should be, but you have to read right over it in order to read the sentence. That's not the same thing as a buried rhyme. That's just an inept rhyme. That's where you have stayed with your poem too long, or are not reading it out loud, or not reading it to an audience out loud before you send it off to, the Edinburgh Review or whatever. But still quite lovely. A.E. Housman never let you down. So that's our poem for today. Poem all about Viriconium, but not my favorite Viriconium. Instead, the real Viriconium, the Roman city that existed that Housman, I guess, knew all about, and that I have visited a couple of times, let's just say. But anyway, that is your poem for today. Who knows what tomorrow will bring? We shall see. I'll see you then. Thank you, Motu.